to the Rediscover Real podcast. My name is Samantha, and I am so thrilled to have you join me on this journey as we rediscover real. And what does that mean? That means to pull back the curtain and come back to the foundations and peel away the layers of mindsets that no longer serve us, of identities and beliefs that no longer serve us, as we want to grow and move forward and show up how God created us to be. Because the bottom line is, at the very core, you and God are everything that you need. You have everything inside of you because God created you absolutely perfect, perfectly imperfect. And we just get to uncover and rediscover what's inside of us and what we're capable of. And so I'm on the journey and you're invited. Together, let's rediscover real in our personal finances, in life, in entrepreneurship, and network marketing. Are you ready? I'm holding out my hand for you. Let's go. Well, hey, it is the first official podcast episode of the Rediscover Real podcast. Again, welcome. I feel so honored that you're taking the time to listen to this. And so today we are going to talk some money mindset and some shifts that I've got to work through. So buckle up. Let's go. Let's dig in. So to kick things off, I want to start with kind of some of that background foundation of when I say money mindset, what am I talking about? What does that look like? What does it mean? Why does anybody care about it? Why would you want to listen to this? Because that might sound like a kind of vague, like, okay, money mindset, like what? Don't I just need a budget and, to not buy so many Starbucks and I'm good, right? Or I think I'm supposed to be investing or something. Well, here's the thing. I have had a budget and have tracked my spending since I was 3 years old. I've taught budgeting and finance in schools from kindergarten through grade 12. I even taught my own personal finance class in post-secondary about budgeting and how to manage your money wisely. But here's the thing. It came from a place of restriction, that closed-fistedness. And if you're watching this and not just listening, you'll see the closed, that like tight-fistedness, right? Versus being able to sit in abundance. And that doesn't mean that you're a millionaire or have all the money in the world, but being able to sit in abundance and see abundance even in little, but then still working towards expansion. And so there's a few different things. There's so much to talk about. And I'm so excited to share with you all what I've learned. And again, I'm just on the journey and I'm just holding up my hand and sharing where I'm at and what I've learned so far so that you can hopefully move forward faster. And so let's talk. So money mindset, what the heck is that? Basically, we all have a collection of beliefs and identities and thoughts and emotions that come up around money. And you might be listening to this and being like, yeah, I was always told growing up, you don't talk about religion, politics, or, money, your personal finances, right? We all probably heard at one point in time, as a kid, we wanted to ask somebody how much they made or how much money they have in their bank account, right? And your parents probably said, oh, you don't ask those questions. You don't ask other people about their money, right? I remember one job I worked doing some sales, and it was like, okay, I was freshly 18 and I worked at Bass Pro in front of the fish tank selling vacations, timeshare vacations. Yeah. And I had to get people to fill out the draw to be entered to win whatever the grand prize was. And so I stopped somebody and they were filling this out because, it was a cool Bass Pro giveaway kind of type thing. And I could tell that they were like ranchers, and I grew up on a farm and with a lot of that. And so I was like, oh, like this will be a fun conversation, right? And I asked them, I was like, oh, like, where are you guys from? Whatever. I forget kind of what the, kind of my intro questions were. And then I was like, oh, that's awesome. How many head of cattle do you run? And they're like, oh, you don't ask that question. That's like asking how much money we have in the bank. And I was so taken aback by it because, and hindsight now, it kind of makes me laugh because clearly they had some scarcity issues. Because what difference does it make if I know, quite frankly, if I know how much money's in their bank account? It doesn't matter. And while that might be private, like you could say that that's private information, it doesn't matter. Um, and that just like showed that there was probably a lot of scarcity, which growing up as a farmer, as the farmer's daughter, grew up with a lot of scarcity myself around money and finances, and those stories will probably definitely come out on here eventually. But it was one of those instances there. I was like, I wasn't asking you how much money you had. Don't worry, I wasn't going to go to the auction market and do some calculations on how much your cattle are worth and like what I was going to try to figure out where you lived and like show up with a bunch of cattle liners and steal your cows. No, like you haven't given me any information to have any of those concerns. Like, it's okay. I'm just asking you how many head of cattle you run. You could totally lie about it if you really didn't feel comfortable, right? Or tell me half of them or whatever. And so it's just interesting seeing how people respond. It had nothing to do with me. It had nothing to do with my question. I was just being friendly and was like, oh, this is like the, middle-aged couple, whatever. I was like, oh, I could like, that's cool. Like they're, people I actually have things kind of in common with, right? But our response tells us a lot about where our mindset's at, where our beliefs are, how we view money, right? So not only does that speak to, that scarcity piece, right? But those core beliefs that we're not supposed to talk about money, we're not supposed to ask about it, you're not supposed to have conversations about it, right? And I'm here to completely erase that and obliterate it because it's just like politics or religion. Personally, I believe it needs to be talked about more. And I believe that shedding light on something, darkness can only exist where there is no light, right? And so when we shine light on that and have those conversations and dig up beliefs that don't serve us and don't support us in where we're wanting to go and goals we're wanting to reach in the life we want to create and the impact we want to have, that's when darkness wins. And so in anything. And so that little total side note that took me back for a second to, oh gosh, the memories of things that I have done to make money. And they've all been legal and you know okay. But gosh, selling boat licenses outside of Bass Pro and vacations inside of Bass Pro was never on the dream board. And we'll talk about that another day. But for today, to come back to what money mindset is and how it impacts us. And the bottom line is, I'm sure you've heard this before, 80% of what we do is mindset and 20% is tactical, the actual tangible things, right? So instead of trying to find another budget or invest more or make more money, we first and foremost get to have a strong foundation of a solid money mindset that's filled with abundance and peace and joy. And then we can expand. And then we can add the tangible, tactical tools and, things in. But if it's that saying of, if you can't take care of a little, you can't take care of a lot, it's kind of the same thing. Except for I know people who make, they're millionaires, right? Or they win the lottery, and they blow all their money, right? It's because they didn't have a healthy mindset with money to begin with. There's probably a lot of scarcity, a lot of, poor spending habits and patterns and identities and unhealthiness, trying to compensate for things, whatever that is. And so before you can make the money, and as I hear it, and I'll talk about this in another podcast, I hear so often there's like kind of 4 different camps that people hang out in. And I hear a lot of guys say, well, we make good money, but it always disappears. And I hear a lot of women say, well, I just need to, like, they're just trying to hold on to it tighter. How can I save more? How can I spend less? How can I like coupon more and budget tighter? And then the other popular one I hear, and there's never enough. And then the other popular one I hear is actually from a Christian perspective. And because as I hear this a lot, I'll address it. And that's, well, we don't need a lot. We're just happy with a little bit. It's okay. We don't need hot water. It's okay that our vehicle's always breaking down. We're just happy. God will provide. And he does provide. But he also wants us to expand, because when we can create that ripple effect and we can expand that ripple and make it a bigger ripple, good people do good things with money. And that is probably going to be a whole separate podcast as well. See, guys, I'm going to be here for a while. I'm so excited though, to finally, because, oh gosh, you guys, it was so hard to try to fit all this into a 7-second reel or a post that wasn't 19 pages long. And I'm somebody that prefers listening or watching as opposed to reading this kind of stuff. And so hopefully this is for you if you're the same, or hopefully if nothing else, this works for you too. So money mindset, to bring it back to that, 80% of what we do is mindset, 20% is tactical. And so specifically talking in our finances, it's not about making more money. It's not about investing more. It's not about a better budget. It's not about living within your means. It's not about any of that stuff. That stuff comes after. We have to feel good first, because if we don't, none of those things matter. And we won't follow through or can stay on track with any of those things. So, money mindset in a nutshell is your thoughts, your beliefs, the emotions you feel around money, the stories you tell yourself with money. So I'd love to hear, as I wrap this up, because we could launch into a whole lot more here, but I want to keep these short and succinct as possible. And so tag me, share this on your stories, and tag me and tell me what's one piece of awareness, what's one story, maybe the story I told of, my fun adventures in front of the fish tank. What's one money mindset? What's one belief? What's one thought? What's one emotion that you feel when you think about your finances, or when you think about money in general? When you even, maybe that story, maybe you're like, oh, she should not have asked that question. I want to know what you think of that. Do you agree? Do you think it was a good thing or a bad thing that I asked that question? I want to hear all the things. So until next time, keep rediscovering real, and remember that you have everything inside you that you need. And there is another episode of the Rediscover Real podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you came away with a different perspective, maybe a thought to mull over for a little while, a new mindset shift that you want to make, or you came away encouraged and enlightened, I would so appreciate it if you would share this with your friends and tag me, of course. I would love to hear your takeaways, and also leave a review so that more people can learn about this podcast. In the meantime, until another episode comes out, I hope you keep digging in, and just remember that I'm on the journey. You're invited. Let's keep rediscovering the real you.